So the ClassJuggler calendar is just one of the ways ClassJuggler helps streamline your business and day-to-day operations. The calendar is used not only for reference, but also more importantly for setting up studio closures, holidays, as well as other special events. You can find your calendar right on the home base page. Let's take a look at the calendar right now. So I'm just going over to my home base menu on the left sidebar, and I'm going to just click on Calendar. And that's going to take us into our online calendar. Basically, this is split up into two different panes. We've got our actual calendar showing all the different events that have already been scheduled or set up on our calendar. And over on the left, we've got our section where we can create new items as well as view scheduled items in a list format for the period that we want to view. In this case, we're looking at the next 3 months worth of events. To create an event, it's pretty simple. You can either select the beginning and ending dates or type them into the fields above, or you can just select a date on the calendar. For example, I'm going to click on the 30th. That's going to go ahead and set my dates to the beginning and ending date for that same day. And then if I want to create an all-day event, I can leave this checkbox checked, or I can uncheck it to create a partial period event. For example, I may set something from 9 a.m. to 9:30. And set up my staff meeting for that day. Then when I save this, this will now appear on my calendar, as well as all the listings that I'm viewing on this screen, as well as on the home base page. To set up any events where you're going to represent your business as being closed or to identify that event as a holiday, you'll just use these other checkboxes which are available underneath. So if I were to create an event, for example, on the 20th, I'm going to go ahead and select one I've already created. You'll see I've set up the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which is on January 20th. That's an all-day event, so that's checked. It's a holiday, and our business is closed, so I've checked all three of these. And you'll see different icons represent different event statistics. For example, the little C symbol on the calendar, as well as the listing, represents business is closed for that full day or for that particular period of hours that I've defined. H just represents holiday, and then E is for any other event that I've scheduled that is not either a holiday or a closed event. Now, where this gets really powerful is when you start tying this into both your prorating for setting up class enrollments, as well as the special per class pricing, which is available when you work with your classes. Let's take a look at that right now. I'm going to pull up my class listing. I've got quite a few sample classes out here, but I've created one that we're going to look at today where we can illustrate the per class pricing. So I'm going to select this Adult Swim class, and that takes me right to the class maintenance page. And here we can see all of the details of the class, as well as what the schedule is and the pricing. Now in this particular class, you'll see I've set up a couple different pricing options. I've got 2 monthly based pricing options. I also have 2 per class pricing options. You'll see that listed in the type column here. I've got a $12.50 per class pricing and a $10 per class sibling pricing for this same class. So I can mix and match different types of tuition at the same time that I'm building this class. So I'm going to edit my class schedule. So that you'll notice this class is set up for Monday at 1:00 p.m. for 50 minutes. Something that's very important to keep in mind when you are using per class pricing and you want to take the calendar into consideration when you're doing enrollments, you do want to make sure that skip close calendar event days checkbox is set to on for that particular class. Otherwise, it will not honor the particular days that are turned as closed on your ClassJuggler calendar from your home base page. I'm going to click go back to my main maintenance screen again. And let's talk about how this starts to affect things like enrollment, and also ultimately when we run a monthly billing cycle to generate new tuition. So why don't we go ahead and enroll a student in this class? So I've just now clicked on my Enroll Student screen over on this class menu. And I'm going to go ahead and just select this first student, which is Cheyenne Adams. And I'm going to click my Enroll action here to start my enrollment. And when I click Enroll, I get my Enroll in Class screen, providing me all the information that I need to perform this enrollment. So I have my student information, my condensed class information, and then my area where I'm going to set the tuition rate for each period, which is in the blue area, as well as the first month's billing that I'm going to post to this customer's account. Now for this example, I wanted to take a look at a couple different things. The default tuition came up as the $60 monthly tuition. This is the first one that I had set up in my tuition table. But I can choose from any of these options, or if I don't have an option in here that meets my particular situation, I can always override that by changing the amounts by typing them in the class tuition field. If I were to choose the default option of $60, I also notice that ClassJuggler has seen this class has already started. So it is mentioning this class is active and in progress. And then it provides me with a second tuition row that helps me prorate the first month's billing for this class based on the date I'm enrolling this student in the class. If I were to choose yes here, you'll notice that the $60 now changes to $20 down here. Now, how that came about is we can read what ClassJuggler is doing to create this proration by looking at the deduction rules. So it's telling us that it's deducting $40 for 2 missed classes based on the date this class is, as well as one of those dates being closed in this month. So it's calculating each class at $20 per class that are remaining in here, and it's posting a request or a suggested amount of $20. Let's look at also what this would do if we chose a per class. I'm going to switch the prorating tuition off. So when we talk about per class versus monthly, we're actually looking at a calculated amount for the pricing of this class. Don't confuse this with drop-in class pricing, where you might have somebody who attends just a single class and doesn't come back for future classes. This is really just a pricing mechanism that will look at the number of days this class occurs in a month based on its day of the week and calculate the total pricing out based on those rules. So for a $12.50 class that meets 4 times in a month, you'd basically have $50 worth of tuition posted to that client's account. In other words, 4 times the $12.50. If that class occurred 5 times in a month, based on the calendar, it'd be 5 times the $12.50 would be posted to that customer's account. Now, obviously, since we've been talking about the calendar being involved in this, the calendar can affect which days are being factored out of that calculation when ClassJuggler looks at pricing these classes. So if you're closed on a particular day and not teaching classes, you can set up per class tuition options that would then automatically provide that discount to your customers' accounts for those days where they're not getting a class. So let's take a look at that. So here's a $12.50 per class pricing option. If I want to prorate that and I say yes, well, let's look at if we don't prorate it. Based on today's date, which is a Tuesday, it's telling me that there are 3 more Mondays, which again is the day this class is held, Monday at 1 p.m., remaining in this month. Therefore, it's going to post a $37.50 tuition for the full month of January. Now, if I say I want to prorate this even further based on other considerations, we can see that based on today's date as the 14th, knowing that we've already missed yesterday's class, knowing that the date of the 20th is also closed because of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, which I set up on my calendar, that only leaves one Monday remaining in January that I could bill for this class. Therefore, ClassJuggler knows only to post $12.50 for that one class if I choose to prorate that for the remainder of this month. So there's some nice built-in tools that will help calculation for your prorations, whether it's a monthly, a per class, or a total tuition pricing option. Let's go ahead and enroll this student in this class. I'm going to turn proration off just for example purposes. And we're going to complete this enrollment. Oop, we have an age difference. Let's just override that by clicking on our override age conflicts. I'm going to just close all of my overrides so we can complete this enrollment. Okay, ClassJugglers just told us that Cheyenne Adams was successfully enrolled in the Adult Swim class. Now earlier I went ahead and enrolled a second student from the same family in this class. You'll see I've got Sally and now Cheyenne, who we just did. Now with Sally's enrollment, I enrolled her in and only posted the billing for the month of December, which has already passed. And I did that so that we can run a quick billing cycle and just see how the pricing is calculated based on the rules in the system. So you'll see that Sally is enrolled in this class at $10 a month, which is the sibling discount, since we have Cheyenne at the full rate of $12.50. So I had already put her in at the discounted rate. And again, she's only been billed for the month of December, not for the month of January. So we can go ahead and run a billing cycle for this particular month to see how we get discounts posted to our tuition for this particular customer. Now let's go back and take a look at this class one more time. I'm back now on the class maintenance screen for the Adult Swim class. And I want to click on this View Calendar of Class Dates, just so we can visually take a look at how this is set up. So here's our calendar for this particular class that runs through the end of May. And here's our current month of January. You'll notice these are the Mondays where the class is typically held, but you'll see this date, the 20th, is not highlighted as an active class date. Again, because I've set that date up on the ClassJuggler calendar as a date that we're closed, therefore to skip for any of our per class pricing. Now if we go back and look at our customer's account for this class, or for these enrollments, I'm going to go ahead and just click on one of the students' names that we enrolled in this class on the View and Manage Enrollment screen. That's going to take me to the student's record, which gives me a shortcut back to the parent's record. So I can now click on the customer record button. And I want to go take a look at this customer's transaction screen. So here's our customer transactions, and you'll see these very last two transactions are the two enrollment records for this particular class. So we have Sally, which I put in at a December billed rate, but she has not yet been billed for January. And then we've got Cheyenne, who has been billed for January, so she won't be billed again. Now I want to run a tuition billing cycle and show you how that per class enrollment pricing in concert with the calendar closed event days will affect how much is being posted in tuition for that January class for Sally, since she's the only one that hasn't been billed yet for January on this customer's account. So I'm going to take us to our main menu for billing. And now I'm going to go to our post tuition screen. And we're going to go ahead and select a payment group to work with. In this case, I've set up one per class that only has this particular family in it, so we can just keep this nice and tight for this example. And we're going to bill for the month of January 2014. And I'm going to go ahead and start processing. ClassJuggler asks me to confirm that I want to run my billing cycle, and I'm ready to go. And pretty quickly it should process this and we'll be finished. And here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and we're going to take a look at what we just created from a tuition standpoint. So the one that we wanted to see was Sally in the adult swim class. Now we'll see the January 2014 tuition for her was only charged at a $10 rate. And to see why we get this, we can basically go back, consider why that happened versus why she wasn't billed the full month. Again, there were 5 classes that could have occurred in January, which would be 5 times her $10, which at the most, this could have been $50. The first thing we need to do is discount the days when we're closed, which is the 20th. So now that drops it to $40. Knowing that if we look at our calendar, I'm going back to home base, I'm going back to calendar. So the only 2 days that we could have billed for are the 20th and the 27th, the only 2 Mondays remaining in the month of January. Now, because we said the 20th is closed because of the holiday, the 27th was the only day that was billed for that particular class, since we're dealing with per class pricing. So 1 times $10 is the $10 that we see on that customer's account. So hopefully you've gotten a little bit of a feeling for how the per class pricing works and how it can do some very nice and actually quite complicated calculations for you without you having to do a lot of prorating and manual adjustments to your customers' accounts for complicated per class pricing rules. And I think at this time I'm going to open up the floor to any questions.